Hello jet ski fans and welcome to another fiberglass video. Yes, that's right, I'm playing with fiberglass again, surprise, surprise. As you probably saw by the title of this video, if you looked at it, I made a bed plate mold. So I used the old bed plate as a plug and I actually had to go back and make a modification to it. Anyway, I'm not going to say too much about it, but I will say that I did not make a part in this video. I made the tool to make the part, so if you're hoping to see the part made, you will be disappointed. I will be doing that or attempting to do that in the future, but I'm waiting for different epoxy and a few other materials. I'm going to attempt to do a very primitive form of vacuum bagging with this because if there's any air pockets, the air pockets that I got in the front of the jet ski that I said were no big deal because it was plenty strong because it was quite thick. Well, if I have any air pockets in this motor mount or this bed plate, it's going to be a big deal for a couple of reasons. One, it's not going to be the right shape. Any air pockets are going to make it so that it's distorted. And two, any air pockets are going to take away from the overall strength. I'm adding 2 millimeters to the bed plate to try to make it stronger because I definitely want a safety margin built in. And so anyway, with that said, I'm not building the bed plate in this video. I'm building the mold to make the bed plate. Let's get into it. If you guys haven't figured it out already, I'm applying gel coat to the bed plate so that I can attempt to make a mold of it. So let's get into it. Kind of interesting because this is basically what I'm going to be doing to the X2 before putting the carbon fiber on the outside of it. So this kind of gives me a bit of an idea of what I'm working with before I actually get into that. So what I didn't do that I should have done is actually put this up on something, because when I go to put the cloth on it, it's going to be very difficult to get the cloth around it if it's not up on something. So what I'm going to do right now, I've got these 2 blocks of 2x4. Well, this is very thick stuff, but I discovered the other day, I think it was when I was making the mold and when I was doing the outside of the front of the X2, I discovered that it actually splits into a few layers. And when it splits into a few layers, it's actually kind of the perfect thickness for putting down the first layer on a mold surface. So yeah, there's some pieces. I'm going to give it a little bit of heat and then let it settle. All right, folks, it is now 2:41 a.m. and I am about to head into the house. I think it's going to work out okay. The engine is mounted on the top and the mounts are on the bottom. So what I might actually have to do is slightly modify the plate because, yeah, what's going to end up happening if I make the engine mount thicker, the engine's actually going to sit higher. So if I want to make the engine plate thicker, I'm going to have to figure out how to offset it in some way, either at the mounts themselves or just the cradle. Not sure. I'll have to look at it and try to figure out what will be the easiest. It is the following day. I have a huge mess here and the weather isn't any better. It's been really nasty here the last few days. It's been snowing a little bit and now today it's raining, so I guess that's better than snow. This has hardened up, so that's good news. I did use a little bit of acetone to try to make things flow out, and I also used a little bit of heat. I need to clean up the general area. I have a huge mess here, and then I'm going to trim this up. I think I'll do that off camera because it's going to make a lot of noise. It's going to take a bit and it's not terribly interesting. So I've now trimmed it up all around the edges, and that has revealed a few places that I'm going to have to do repairs to. And I should probably do those repairs instead of popping it out of the mold, but I'm kind of anxious to get it out of the mold. So I might have screwed up, guys. It might be stuck on there way better than I thought. The PVA over the rough surface might not have been a good idea. Oh, no, we've got separation. Okay, that is good news. I just got to get something small jammed in there and keep working my way around. Oh, I just heard it pop. Now that I know it's separated along the sides, I'm going to come back to here and I'm going to try working through the through this part and see if I can get it to pop off, or how far I can get it to pop off. Let's try some air pressure. I can smell the wax and PVA. Oh, it's oh, there we go. I'm gonna wait for that to shut off so that we can hear. All right, I've switched it around to the other side, and I'm now, I think this is gonna be the final part of the puzzle here. I've got some extra air pressure because the compressor, oh yeah, there we go. Oh, it's coming up. Ha ha ha. Let's see what it looks like. Well, nothing stayed behind except for the plasticine plugs. And there is my mold. I could hear rain falling outside of the window because I left the window open and it was freaking me out. I thought it had something to do with the air compressor. Okay, so here we have it. Obviously, I've got to clean the PVA off of it. I'm going to change the name of my YouTube channel to Fly By Night Composites. Or Shade Tree Composites. Let me know what you think the name of my composites company should be. It's got to be something shady. So there it is. I'm not sure how much of it you guys could actually see because I had the camera pointing down while I was talking about it. But that is definitely a usable mold. I need to add some thickened epoxy in here, but I won't have to actually put it back in the mold. I can just do that quite easily. The reason why I need to fill that in is because if I try, the reason why I need to fill this in and a couple other places is because if I try to lay fiberglass or carbon fiber over this, what's going to happen is the epoxy and fiberglass or carbon are going to get stuck in that crack, and then it's going to be impossible to get the piece off. Plus, it's going to create an imperfection in that area. I got to figure out what I'm going to do about the offset. I think I mentioned that earlier, but I'm going to make this thicker than the original bed plate, which means that the engine would be a little bit too high. So what I need to do is figure out how to make the bed plate slightly offset so that I can add thickness to it without adding any height to it. Make sense? All right, YouTube, after a little bit of thinking, I realized that I should have compensated for the offset when I was building this original piece. Unfortunately, I didn't do that, so now I'm going to need to modify this piece in order to compensate for that offset. The bed plate is going to be an extra 2 millimeters thick, so that means it's going to cause the engine to sit 2 millimeters higher. And we don't want that because it won't align properly with the drive shaft. The proper way to go about doing this would have been to put some 2 millimeter thick spacers or washers in this area. And what that would have done is made it so that when I made the mold of this part, it would have left an indentation on here. Then when I put the fiberglass on here, or the carbon fiber rather, on here to make the part, it would have been offset that way by 2 millimeters, and that would have compensated for the extra thickness of the plate. All right, so what I need to do is actually cut out the areas around where these mounts go. And then I need to add a spacer, put on my PVA, put on the wax, do all that stuff, and then redo these corners. I'm not sure how much of that showed up on camera, but what I did was used a socket and rotated it to make a nice smooth radius in the corner between the new spacers and the bed plate. Now what I need to do first of all is clean this up and then wax it, spray PVA on it, and then I need to trim out around here so that I have enough clearance for this radius. All right, I'm going to try to get lots of wax on the washers, in the holes, and on the plasticine without actually disturbing the plasticine. Hopefully that works out for me. It looks like it's going to go okay. I was trying to figure out how to get wax down into the hole without deforming the plugs that I made. All I need to do is put some wax on the end of the punch thing that I used. Well, I should be happy, but I'm kind of bummed out because I was hoping to get this done tonight. And I've got the openings cut out, but I still need to put a couple of coats of PVA on before I can comfortably start laying up fiberglass. And it is currently, I have a really busy week this week, so hopefully I get to do some more work on this, but not 100% sure. It is now the following day at 11 in the evening, and I probably shouldn't be doing this. I didn't get much sleep last night, and then I worked all day out in the rain. I came home, unloaded my truck and restocked it with stuff for tomorrow, and then I laid a new floor in the bathroom, so I am quite exhausted. I just got done answering a bunch of emails. I don't want to leave this. I don't want this to take forever because it's supposed to be just one small piece of a big project. So I'm going to try to lay this up now. I'm just doing a few small pieces on this mold, so I don't imagine a whole lot can go wrong, but it's usually when stuff goes wrong. All right, I decided to thicken it up a little bit, but not too much. It is now almost exactly 2 hours later, and I've finished this. I hope that it's going to turn out. I used a pretty shady method of heating it up with the heat gun to try to get the epoxy to actually wet out the fiberglass, because I kept adding layers to it. I was using some of this cloth. I used a little bit of chop strand and then mostly this cloth to reinforce the end pieces here. And the epoxy sets up so quickly that it doesn't like to absorb into the cloth. It doesn't like to wet the cloth out properly. So what I was doing is using the heat gun to thin out the epoxy basically, and I did 1, 2, 3, and then you can see on the fourth one there's quite a bit of white spots in there. This has nothing to do with jet skis, but I thought I would put it in this video because it's funny. I have bacon grease that I got from a few pounds of bacon. I don't know how much it is, but it's about that much. And I decided I'm going to instead of mixing oil in with my weed trimmer fuel, I'm going to run my weed trimmer this summer, or until it blows up anyway. I'm going to run my weed trimmer on bacon grease and gas. Still has a bunch of chunks in it. It's getting stirred up fairly well though. Alright, I'll put a half tank in for now. I don't know that I'm going to be able to continue with that experiment because I can tell right away that it's burning some sort of cooking fat or some sort of animal fat. The bad part about it is that it does not smell like bacon. It does not smell like bacon fat. It just smells like burning animal fat. It smells pretty bad. All right, I got one small tie wrap in there. That's one small tie wrap for man, one giant tie wrap for mankind. All right, I got one of them to release. All right, let's do a little bit of prying. See if we can't break something. Should just pop off. There we go. Cool. The epoxy went in, but not too far. That worked perfectly. Wow. I did not expect it to work that well. Don't know if you guys can see, but the epoxy went in just a little bit around all of the edges. No, you can't see because of the sun. Probably can't see anything. So yeah, the epoxy went in just to here, around this area, so enough so that it actually, yeah, went over the new surface. So that's really good news. I did not expect that. And it seems to have done that on all of them. All right, I'm gonna have to clean this up and trim it up. The surfaces all seem to have turned out fairly well. I did not expect them to because they were just the rough surfaces of the washer. I didn't sand them or do anything to them. But that's really cool. It turned out. Awesome. All right, YouTube, I got it all cleaned up. And I'm very happy with the way it turned out. I'm not sure if it's terribly clear what I'm trying to do by offsetting these, but I'll basically try to show you a little bit in the hull here. We'll take this to the hull and kind of set it in place. I don't have any actual motor mounts in place, but just use your imagination. So the engine sits on top of here, and these sit on top of the motor mounts. So there's 4 rubber motor mounts. Here, 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 and here. And if the plate was thicker, if I just sat this here on the motor mounts and made the plate thicker, then it would make the engine higher by however much I make it thicker. So what I did is I made it so that these round parts here are offset or up higher by 2 millimeters. And so when I put this down, I can make the plate 2 millimeters thicker, and this will still be in the same position that it was before. Very happy with that. Well, there you have it, YouTube, an almost finished bed plate mold. I say almost finished because I still need to go over it and fill in a few voids to make sure that it doesn't snag when I lay the carbon fiber in it. I don't want to have a bed plate made that can't be removed from the mold because it's glued to the mold. So I'm gonna have to take care of that. I'm also going to have to look at this very closely and figure out if I need to add any flanges or anything like that. I probably should have done that before now, but I was anxious and I just didn't have a lot of time, so I just went for it. I'm thinking what is going to happen is I'm going to just basically lay the cloth flat over the top of this and let it overhang the edges slightly. Probably 1/2 inch or 3/4 of an inch just to be on the safe side. And then I'm going to try to wet lay up with a different epoxy, an epoxy that takes like 5 hours to cure, so I'm not rushed. And then I will put it in a vacuum bag and suck it down so that it all consolidates together so that I don't end up with a bunch of air pockets. And then when I demold it, I will use the lines in the mold, or the lines that the mold left on the part, to then trim it to size and finish it up. If this part ends up working out really well and I am going to make more in the future, I will probably wet sand this and touch it up so that the parts have a very nice finish on them. But for at least the first one, I'm going to leave it as it is for 2 reasons. One is because I think it actually looks pretty cool with the, I don't know, the little marks in it. You can see where the rust pitting was, where I sandblasted it and the rust came out. And also around where I added the washers in, you can see those little lines. Anyway, those lines will show up in the new part, and those little rust pits will show up in the new part. So I think that's pretty cool. After that, if I'm going to make any to give away or to sell, I'll probably finish the part. So I'll probably do a bunch of sanding, then wet sanding, and polish it up so that the parts are nice and proper. Anyway, that is going to do it for this one. I'm extremely excited about this. I was going to order some epoxy, and I tried to order it from the place that I ordered my fiberglass from for doing the floor of the X2, and they don't offer shipping to my area anymore. So I spent hours doing research and picked out the exact epoxy that I wanted. I picked out a couple of other things from the store, and then I went through the whole ordering process, through the shopping cart and all that, and placed my order. Didn't actually purchase, but attempted to place the order, and then it's only had in-store pickup for my area, but it's a 4-hour drive to get to the place. So it's an 8-hour round trip, and I don't have a lot of extra time right now. So I'm going to contact them and see if there's some sort of glitch in the system that just isn't allowing it to ship it to me. Otherwise, I'm going to have to get some epoxy from somewhere else. I did find a place in Ontario, which is quite a bit further away, so the days of shipping would take longer, but they have a better product. I forget what it's called, polypoxy. Anyway, it's used for aircraft, and it's extremely, extremely strong stuff. And it comes with different hardeners, so I can have a fast hardener, a slow hardener, so on and so forth. Anyway, I've been talking for way too long. The camera says 4 minutes. That is going to do it for this one. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.